Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another thrilling edition of Barguments. Once again, I am your host, Dan Levy, and with me is my co-host, Joe Filippo. What up, Joe?
What's up, Daniel?
All right, I like the new background. You got to teach me how to make a home studio look like that. Even though I spent thousands of dollars in here, yours looks better now.
Yeah, I charge $100 an hour if you don't mind. But for you, I'll make it 95.
Well, in order to get this all written up and cinched up and agreed upon legally, we're going to bring in a lawyer. Also turned comedian, he is Joe Lauer. Joe, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
All right, so Joe, just a quick little biography on you, buddy. You were a college basketball player?
I played 1 year of college ball, and that was enough. You know, the NBA scouts weren't calling, so I decided to switch careers and try something else.
I believe in the sports terminology, that would be a pivot. So what college did you go to? Where did you play? What position?
I played 1 year at Benedictine University. It's a Division III college. So,
Got it.
You know, I did just enough to tell my friends I played college hoops, and I'm fine with that.
Hold on. What position did you play?
Left out.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was a point guard in college, which I didn't like because I really couldn't dribble. I like to shoot. But by the time, you get to college, everybody's 6'5", 6'6". So I was only 6'1". They made me a point guard. So I struggled.
Now, were you recruited? Was this like a walk-on thing? Was there a scholarship tackled onto this?
I got an academic scholarship. I don't know if a Division III school can make an athletic scholarship offer.
No, I don't think they can.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they can. But, I went to a few open gyms there during the summer, met with the coach, and I basically walked on. And I was on the JV team.
Gotcha.
I didn't make the varsity. But it was still a lot of work, a lot of traveling, morning practices, game films. I mean, it was exhausting. And then I lived in the dorms. So, if you got a 5 a.m. practice and everybody in the dorms is up till 2, 3 in the morning partying, I mean, you weren't sleeping, so that whole first year of college was just an absolute daze for me.
So was mine.
Oh my gosh. And then at the end of the year, it was a private school. You got the bill in the mail. You're like, oh my God, I got to pay for this? This is ridiculous. And I told my dad that the NBA did not send me any letters. He said, pack your stuff. You're going to state school. And that was it.
And then you went to a state school to become a lawyer. Which state school did you go to?
I transferred to UIC. And
what year was that?
Oh, man. 99, 2000.
Okay, that was right around when Joey and I were going to college. I used to live around UIC, so I know the area pretty well. My brother was a president of a fraternity at UIC, so I spent a lot of time hanging out over there. So I can only imagine that nice shut-eye was not in the cards at UIC either. That is for those not in Chicago, that is a school smack dab right in the heart of the city of Chicago.
Yeah, you get access to all the best restaurants, clubs, bars. So, 3 years there, got the bachelor's, and then I studied law at John Marshall, which is now UIC Law School. Got the law degree in 2007. And I've been a practicing attorney for, I think it'll be 18 years this year.
So you go on to become a lawyer, and then you wrote a book called Basketball, Beatings, Boners, and the American Dream, which is pretty much the theme of my life as well.
Yeah, it was an autobiography. Is that when you write a book about yourself, or biography? I was going
to say, you're the lawyer. You should be a lot smarter than me.
Definition. But it was just a quick, maybe 70, 80-page book, kind of documented my life up to that present time, told from my point of view, but as, it was written as a comedy. We sold about 80 copies online. I was selling them for $3 a pop.
Hey, that's not bad.
Just kind of testing the waters, wanted to get the book out there, see how the family and friends felt about my sense of humor, which I describe as crude and R-rated. And I got some good feedback. So after I wrote the book, I said, you know what, I'm going to venture off and try to do stand-up and present these stories to an audience at comedy clubs, bars, and parishes. And, here we are 8 years later.
At what age point? Like, is it from like 20 to 30? Like, what is the time frame of what point of your life that you're writing about there?
That book was written from my probably like 8th grade through just after getting married and moving to the suburbs.
Interesting.
And that was a wild transition for me, guys, because I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago, which is blue collar, strap up your boots, get to work, party. And then I come out to New Lenox and it's like, you got a picket fence. I'm cutting the grass. I got 2 kids. And you just look in the mirror like, man, where the hell did it all go wrong?
All right. So if we're keeping score here, you went from a south side of Chicago kid, basketball player, lawyer, and now the full pivot to the suburbs and going into comedy.
Right.
So
I mean, I got 15 hours of travel sports this weekend.
So wait, before we even continue onto that path, as you were going along in life, were you always kind of like comedy is something I want to do at some point? Or was writing that book kind of like, hey, that was fun, that was funny, maybe I should dabble in this as well?
Well, I wrote the book because, to be honest with you guys, I have stage fright. And I always thought it would be easier to write the book, sell it, and just make people laugh that way. But, we sold a couple of copies. After about 6 months, sales kind of burnt out. And I said, you know what? I just got to suck it up, get on stage, even though I'm nervous, and tell the jokes and see what happens. Because that way, you can see people laughing and if you're funny or not.
How was that
once
first
the book
time?
kind of fizzled out, I made a plan to get on stage and tell jokes and see if I could do it. And if I was funny, or if I was just that guy that was funny at like social events, family parties, and what have you.
Oh, no, that is a deep toe into a deep part of water to figure that part out. Before Joe asks his question, were you writing comedy, or were you testing it out on people, or were you like, I'm just going to write a set and I'm going to go up there and no one's going to see me do this, and then do it?
Well, my brother got married in maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And he said, hey, would you be my best man? And by the way, everyone's expecting you to be somewhat funny when you give this best man speech. And I'm like, geez, there's going to be 350 people there.
Wow.
In my sense of humor, I mean, this thing could go south fast. You don't want to offend grandma or one of the in-laws and ruin this kid's whole wedding.
No drinking before the speech.
Well, you had to drink because I didn't like getting up in front of people. So, a couple of vodka 7-Ups, 2 old fashions. And I had written about 5 rough drafts before, and I ran them by my mom. I said, Ma, can I say this stuff? She goes, absolutely not. People are going to walk out. So I watered it down somewhat, but I still wanted to be, true to myself. I want to be Joe Lauer up there, not some, I got to be myself. So I told the jokes and it went really well. I posted that video on my Instagram and Facebook page. And that was my first time doing stand-up. It was about a 6-7 minute set, 350 people, had about 7-8 drinks in me.
Whoa.
And, that was what kind of catapulted me to get up on a stage at a comedy club.
Are you still maintaining that kind of beverage number before you hit a stage?
I'll tell you now, if I drink like that, I fall asleep.
I was going to say, in my 40s, I don't know if I could do that either.
I'll get up there, maybe have a nitro brew or some coffee, and then bring a water on stage so I'm not parched. Because when you do these comedy clubs, usually you'll get 2 shows, Friday at 8 and 10 and Saturday at 8 and 10. And, during the week, I go to bed at 9 o'clock. So a 10 o'clock show, that's really pushing it. So if I were to drink, I would just be sleeping in the green room. That's a young guy's game. So I either have a coffee, an espresso shot, or, just something to keep me stimulated. But I really can't drink anymore at these shows. It'd be a disaster.
Now that I definitely understand, because the older I've gotten, I have a 10-year-old kid and I got a wife as well. And man, whenever like 8 o'clock comes, I am struggling to keep my eyes. We try to watch a TV show together, and I can almost set my watch to when I'm going to pass out.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. A lot of these comics, they're younger, and that's their only job. I work 60 hours a week as an attorney. sometimes more. And then I get on the stage on Friday and Saturday. Usually by that time I'm exhausted. And that's kind of why my comedy now is almost like, man, people tell me, I feel like you're just up there bitching for an hour. Well, man, I've been at the office 65 hours a week. I mean, what do you want me to do?
I was going to say, have you ever had like an audience go dead or heckle and you just started almost like going in on them like a cross-examination? Like, what did you find funny?
Right. No, sometimes that's the problem. You go into lawyer mode and you're up there, you're lecturing or doing a direct. And it's like, hey, come back down to earth. This is a comedy show. But sometimes that switch just flips in your head and you can't stop it. So yeah, I've had shows where people are like, hey, man, you just yelled at us for 45 minutes. I'm like, man, you already paid for the tickets, buddy.
I'm impressed it's a 45-minute set. When are you getting the chance to write all the jokes? Because if you're doing 60 hours a week and you're doing that kind of stuff and then all of a sudden you got to do a special or you got to do, hey, man, we're booking you for a thing. I mean, at what point are you stopping and going, all right, it's time to write out about another 20, 30-minute set routine?
My cell phone's always on me. So if something happens and I'm like, you know what, that's going to be a good joke, you just type it into the cell phone, store it somewhere. And after 3 months, I'll go through it and see what I got. And then you just tweak it and rewrite until you think it's at a point where, okay, I'm going to try this on stage. But yeah, it's just as you go through life, when something happens, you email yourself, you jot it down on a notepad. And then my routine is after 3 months, I'll go check to see what I got. And if I have enough and I feel like it's good, you'll test it on the stage. If I don't have enough, we'll take another 3 months, keep writing and see where we're at.
Go ahead, Joe.
Is that something you learned going through like these comedy shows and talking to other comedians, or is it just your routine?
Every comedian has their own routine.
Mm-hmm.
The way I do it is, Joe, if I'm going through life and there's something that happens and I step back and say, what the fuck was that? I know that's my material.
Okay.
So as soon as I think that or say that, I say, okay, let me get the pen, paper, or the phone handy, and I jot down what happens next. And that's kind of my style of comedy and people will relate. You're going through life and you're like, what the? And then boom, I write it down and try to convert it into a joke.
I've done stand-up comedy one time. I want to do it again. I've had the itch since COVID to get up there and do it again. I've written a lot of stuff, but I took a class at Second City with another buddy of mine named Abe, and we both did a stand-up comedy class, and it was tough. I mean, it was a really cool class. They taught us how to. The very first class, we got to write a set where we all bombed. So we got to feel what it was like but then you're telling such dumb jokes that everyone's laughing anyway. And then for the next 6 weeks, we built up a routine where we performed. And I actually, those of you that are watching the podcast or listening to this podcast, I will put that in the notes as well, along with Joe's stuff as well. But I did it the one time it got recorded, and I will say it was only a 6-minute set. The first 5 minutes I had were really good, but the problem was I loaded the audience. So it was my brother, my friends, people I knew, and we all loaded it, so everybody was extra cool. It wasn't like I walked into a room of faces I hadn't seen before. So that's where the next question I have for you. The first time you got up in front of a club, did you do it on your own? Did you stack it? Or were you just like, I got to see, I'm going to do this one time. I'll tell my wife about it, get up there, and if I like it, I like it. If not, I'm kind of done. How did you kind of set yourself up for it?
Yeah, the first time I did stand-up, I went to an open mic at Riddle's Comedy Club, and I had my jokes written down, and I memorized them verbatim. I got up there. They give you 5 minutes to do your set. At 4, there's a light that blinks in the back to remind you that you have 1 minute left. I was so dialed in, I just blurted out whatever I memorized. I was up there 10 minutes. And, the host pulled me aside. He's like, dude, everybody's got to go. What are you doing? I said, sir, I apologize. I was in a zone. I don't know what happened. And it was miserable. No one laughed. I ran the light. So, I went out to the bar afterwards and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I can at least tell people at this point I tried. I did an open mic.
That's huge. That's like 90% of even
the hardest part, the first step.
The stand up there, man, it is like being in a crowd butt naked and just letting people and just trying to get what people are thinking of you.
I couldn't do karaoke. So there's no way I'm going up there to do an open mic night. I'm just not.
Eight drinks will change that, but go out with the story.
Need more than that.
No, it was absolutely miserable. And I said, you know what? Because that's my personality, is just to keep going. And I just kept showing up at Riddle's, showing up. We booked a show there and sold about 200 tickets. The place holds 250. Then clubs started calling me to perform on weekends. I was getting paid. And, the rest is history. But you just got to get through that first, second, third time on stage. And then things start to click. And now I still get stage fright. When I get up on stage, in the back of my mind, there's always that thought, like, they're just going to stare at me, or none of these jokes are going to hit. And but it's like playing a sport. Once you throw the first pitch or hit the first jump shot, you relax, and then you just start to enjoy it.
All right. So then I have a couple of questions that I wanted to bounce off of you for this one. What is more cutthroat, a courtroom or a comedy club?
Well, I mean, the courtroom, some guys they're looking at serving time or losing millions of bucks. So I think the odds are a little higher. In the
sure
comedy world, you just go have a drink and shake it off, and ticket sales are final, so you're getting paid regardless.
Do you find that either one, like I said, do you find that you being now a comedy guy or a comedian, that it helps you in the courtroom, or does it hurt you? Because is there a part where you're like, I'm going to say a joke and maybe that joke didn't go over very well?
Yeah. Well, in court, we can only speak to facts. You talk about a car accident, you explain how it happened. In comedy, the stage, you can basically say whatever you want. But anytime, you're doing stand-up and you get comfortable on stage and speaking in front of people, juries can sense that. If you're up there and you're sweating and you're nervous, and, the people in the jury box know, hey, man, he's not comfortable. Maybe he doesn't know his case that well. But doing stand-up, I mean, there's no better practice for becoming confident in public speaking than getting on a comedy stage and performing.
I will say, all the times, like I said, I've done public speaking. I've been in radio for over 20 years now, which is weird as some would even say it was. And I've had no problems ever public speaking. When I did stand, I was nervous because you could see some people, but that is a very bright light on you. And it feels like you're just throwing jokes out into the ether and hoping that it boomerangs back with laughter. But whenever it's been like, I've done a couple of best man speeches, and I've always found the best man speeches to be easy on my end, because whenever you're doing the best man, you're following the bride, the maid of honor, and theirs is 100% sad, emotional, and
sentimental.
It's usually they're crying, everyone cries, and it's a giant hug. And then they look at me, and I'm like, first and foremost, everybody take a chug of whatever you're drinking. And then that always sets the tone for whatever I'm going to find a level off. So I've always found that. But when it's comedy and it's your jokes, it's a different kind of a feeling. So public speaking, I can only imagine just being up there and rattling off and dealing with that kind of audience. Jurors have got to just be a lot more enlightened with you, just because you're a lot more comfortable now speaking into them.
Right. And in the jury, too, you got to remember, they're there. They got to take the day off of work. They get a check for like $17 or $18. Most of them probably don't even want to be there.
No.
At least at the comedy show, they're paying, they're drinking, they're there to have a good time. So it's just two completely different worlds.
What's the biggest myth people believe about lawyers that would drive you crazy?
Myth?
Is there anything out there when you say I'm a lawyer, people say like, oh, you must be an ambulance chaser. You might be.
Yeah, I think that when I tell people I'm a lawyer and they don't know me, like I know Joe, and Joe knows my personality. I love getting the kids together, turkey bowl, telling jokes, hanging out. I think that when you tell someone you're a lawyer, in their head, they automatically think, oh, this guy's uptight. He's argumentative. I'm just going to stay away. And, that's not true. Some of my lawyers, my friends, I mean, they're just so easygoing and, good people to hang out with. But, we have this, I don't know, and maybe I'm off, but this stigma that we're just uptight and money hungry and, no personality and not easy to get along with. But with me, it's completely opposite. pretty
can attest.
going. I do stand up. I wrote a book about boners. I mean, come on. And then too, sometimes, I don't want that to be my lawyer. I want this absolute pit bull who's going to tear people's faces off and do this and that. And, it's not like that. The courthouse, we all have to get along. You have to be professional. And I mean, you just got to be good to people. Comedy, law, wherever you're at, just be a good guy and things work out.
Have any of your clients found out that you do stand up on the side? Do you tell them?
Yeah.
Do you broadcast that to them, or do you kind of keep that on the hush hush to your clients?
Yeah, I don't tell them that. But a few have come to shows. I've become friends with a couple. And, even that, they may say, I don't want a lawyer who does stand up. I hope, though, that they're professional and mature enough to say, you know what, he has a hobby. He does comedy on the side. The law is his job. And everyone has things that they enjoy to do outside of work. So hopefully they can draw that distinction and not say, well, it's the same. He's a comedian when he's in court and he's defending me, because it's not. I'm a different person at the courthouse. But a couple clients have come to shows, but I don't broadcast it. I don't go to court with them, try a case, and say, hey, here's a ticket to my next show.
Well, I know
you should offer that as like a hey,
consolation prize.
You may win at my comedy show.
Yeah. But when I meet them, they do say, Joe, you're easy to talk to. I can call you anytime. I was in a terrible spot in my life with this accident, and you kind of, you coached me through it. You were there for me. You made me laugh, and they appreciate that. And I think if most of them found out that I did stand up, they wouldn't be surprised.
Do you ever, I know you can't really talk about the cases, but do you ever put any of that into your sets, into your jokes? Do you ever revert back to anything that's specifically happened in a courtroom? Do you ever talk about that when you're writing?
Well, I'll tell you, this show we got coming up May 25th, it's all new material. I'm going to bring back a couple classics, but I do have a joke, not about specific cases, but just about the law generally and how bizarre some of these laws are in Illinois. And if you want to hear those, you'll have to buy a ticket. Show up on the 25th.
Well, for those that do not live in the Illinois, Chicago areas, or any kind of a joke you can share with people to wet the whistle, if you will.
Yeah, so that show's May 25th, Riddles Comedy Club in Elsa. The doors open at 5. Show starts at 6. If you go to my Facebook page, my Instagram page at JWL Comedy, or the Riddles Comedy Club website, there's a QR code you can scan to buy tickets. Tickets are $20 each, unless you use promo code JERKS, then they're 2 for $30.
Well done. All right, so the question I always have for comedians, and especially you, because you being a lawyer, a lot of your comedy, like you said, actually revolves around family and children. Have they seen the set? Are they cool with you taking shots? Are they cool with you kind of basing comedy around them? Because I know from being on the radio that, luckily my wife is in radio too, and she gets what it is that I do. But if I was with anybody else, I'm not sure they would understand exactly what this is. Are they all cool with what you're doing?
My kids, I raised them, so they've been engulfed in this lifestyle since they were born. So they are immune to it. They're used to it. It's just a way of life for them. When their friends come over, they're kind of like, what did your dad just say to you? And I want them to have that experience, because when you go out in the world, it's wild out there.
Yeah.
The world is not just, hey, I play travel sports, I go to school, and I go to Starbucks. There's some wild stuff going on, and they need to learn about it. And if I can teach them by using comedy, let's get it done. So yeah, they don't, and I don't say anything so wild or X-rated. It's crude at times, but nothing to ruin their reputations or make them blush or make them angry. But they're in my world, and honestly, at this point, I almost feel like they're clones of me, the way they talk and how they handle comedy in the world. So, but I do tell them the jokes. If they're about them, I'll run them by them. And if they ever said, "Dad, don't say it," I wouldn't say it.
I was going to say, do they ever say something, or is an interaction happen between you guys where they're like, Dad's going to write that in his jokes?
Yeah. No, everything that I've said about them is fine. My wife, on the other hand, there's days that it shows where she's got to walk out the back door, and I'm fine with
Really?
that. You didn't pay for your ticket anyways. Just go away to the
Hey,
That's great.
sometimes the best hecklers are the ones that are on the other side of the bed. I'll tell you that much.
She's a good sport too. A lot of the stuff is about her, and obviously it's exaggerated and twisted. I'm lucky to have her. We do this. Working 60 hours a week. How many guys' wives would say, "I go sit at a comedy club Friday and Saturday night when I haven't seen you all week?" So she's an absolute saint.
Very cool. The push came to shove, and someone said, "Hey, for now on, you can either choose to be a full-time comedian or a full-time lawyer. Would you be able to decide which one you'd want to do?"
Oh, I'd have to keep practicing law. I mean, last year doing stand-up, I think I made $611.
Hey, that makes you a professional.
Yeah, so that's a no-brainer.
Congratulations.
I got bills to pay. I want to retire one day. So this is just kind of like a passion project on the side. I do it because I want to see how far I can take it. I started off as a best man speech, and I've headlined the Comedy Bar. I opened for Pat Tomasulo a couple times.
Oh,
I've
nice.
done shows Michigan, Wisconsin. So I'm doing it just to see how far I can take it. So we're going to.
If you became a comedian that was headlining your own at giant stadiums and all kinds of stuff, and you started getting to that elite level, would you rather do the comedy for a full-time living?
Oh, of course, man. This, I mean, both lawyer and comic are great because you're helping people out. As a lawyer, when someone gets hurt and they're in a tough spot, there's no better feeling than someone coming in and saying, "Hey, man, you really took care of me. I appreciate it." Same with comedy. People will come up after a show and say, "Joe, I just lost my job on Wednesday. You had me laughing for 30 minutes. I forgot about all my problems." And that feeling, I mean, I thrive on that. There's nothing like it, man. And I want to keep doing it as long as I can, whether it be in law or comedy.
Well, that's got to make up for any time you've ever lost a case and bombed on stage at the same time.
We don't lose cases over here.
Barguments, 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 barguments.
All right, now comes the best part of the show for some people. This is Barguments. We're just going to throw out some topics. Who cares if they're right or wrong? Let's just have some fun. Joe Lauer, comedian, will be at Riddles. That's going to be May 25th. Head to the link in this podcast description on YouTube or anywhere else that you're listening. I will have that link in there for you guys, and you can go ahead and come check them out. I think Joe and I may have to come watch you as well, and we'll use your family's discount. All right. For a Mount Rushmore, because you are also a lawyer, what is the Mount Rushmore of movie lawyers, realistic or ridiculous? Who makes the cut of the Mount Rushmore of movie, or I'll make it movie or television, fictional lawyers? Who is on the Mount Rushmore of lawyers for you?
Vince Gambini, my cousin Vinny.
Yes, he was on mine.
You got to throw. I think that head actor from Suits was pretty sharp. I forgot his name.
Harvey Specter. Yes, he's on mine.
Yep. Give me Judge Wapner.
Judge Wapner.
I like him. Was he fictional?
I don't know.
No, I thought that was real.
Was he real?
Well, he's a judge. He's a judge.
Reality TV, whatever real is.
Well, you know what? I'll put it on there.
And he's not a lawyer, but give me Bull from Night Court.
Oh, yes.
All right. Joey Jojo.
I had Night Court as well. Harry, I forget his last name.
Harry Anderson.
Harry Anderson, thank you. Also, Jim Carrey, when he's in Liar Liar.
I like it.
And actually, I don't know if you know this one. It's a little bit older, but Robert Downey Jr. in the movie The Judge.
I don't know if I know that movie. That sounds, if it's Downey, it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's who's in it? Billy Bob Thornton, Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall.
Yeah, Robert Duvall, the judge, and gets, I don't know, hits somebody, kills someone, and Robert Downey Jr. is his lawyer, who's his son.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's
Good one, Bill.
amazing. My Mount Rushmore, Saul Goodman.
Oh,
He's
Better Call
probably
Saul,
my
yeah,
favorite one of all. Definitely the one. If
yeah.
I was jammed up, it would be him or my number 2, Harvey Specter. I started watching Suits just because I've been watching so many YouTube clips, and I was like, I should watch this show, Netflix. And then I started watching the first couple episodes. I got hooked, and then my wife goes, "That's the show with Meghan Markle." I'm like, "It is?" I didn't even realize she was on that. And then she kept trying to send me, like, she doesn't like Meghan Markle, so she was sending me like YouTube clips, and I refused to watch it because I don't want to be like, I don't want to know what she's like outside of this show. I'm in this weird cocoon. But every time I tell somebody any spectrum, I was like, "Oh, I hate that girl." Like, all right, I'm trying my hardest not to figure out exactly who this one is. But watching that show, if my life was on the line, Harvey Specter gets that one for me. I'm gonna go Matlock is number 3. That guy always seemed to be able to get everybody out of jams, and he was like 80 years old walking around, busting everybody's cases over there. And then the one I would do, the other one would have to be, again, Vincent Gambini from My Cousin Vinny. That was the greatest lawyer of all time. The one that can Mrs. Riley and only Mrs. Riley. That I think I've watched that scene about 1 million times over.
That's one of those movies you can watch it. You start it at any point when you turn it on and watch it the rest of the way.
Oh, yeah. And you're like, man, they got Daniel LaRusso in here, and he's not even like a factor in this movie.
No.
Bill Pesci is that good.
The 2 youths.
The 2 youths. The 2 youths. All right. Let me ask you this one. A better judge, Judge Judy or Judge Reinhold?
I mean, I got to go Judge Judy. She's a firecracker. I'm afraid of her.
Judy all day. Come on.
She a cage fighter before that?
You know what? Honestly,
MMA.
My uncle was a public defender in New York City. And when he got married, he got remarried for, I want to say, a second or third time when I was a little kid. And he was the kind of lawyer that, they did the whole favors game. And the year before her show came out, Judge Judy was the person that performed the wedding ceremony at my uncle's. And I remember my dad going, "This is, Judge Judy Scheinblum. She's going to be like, Judge Wapner." I remember being like, "That's awesome." And I was like 10 years old. I had no idea what that meant. And then now she's like uber famous. I'm like, I can't believe that. But I would still take Judge Reinhold. Though Judge Judy she was mean. Judge Reinhold looks like a very nice guy. He was great in all the Beverly Hills Cops. Vice Versa was a great movie with Fred Savage. He's in the classic scene in what is the one with Spicoli? What's that movie?
The Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And then, of course, he was the close talker in Seinfeld. That means all the expectations of judges. So for me, the better judge, Judge Reinhold, will be that one for me. What would you say? And we'll do this as the better improv actor, because we're going comedians. The better comedy improv actor, Jim Carrey or Robin Williams?
I gotta go Robin Williams.
Joey Jojo?
I'm going Robin Williams as well. That guy, classic right there. There's nothing he did that was bad, I think. Well, maybe a couple, but
I will say that both of them are hilarious in their own right. Both of them are amazing, but both of them can also go too extreme where it's actually kind of annoying. For me, Robin Williams had too many where I was like, I don't even know where he is right now. Like, he is hilarious and he's funny, but then he'll like start doing impressions, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. For me, Jim Carrey, the impressions are still what I like the most. And I still like because he was on In Living Color and he did a lot.
I loved him there.
So for me, I would go Jim Carrey. Ace Ventura, I can watch over and over again. And I can watch a lot of those movies, like you said, Liar, Liar. Again, Mrs. Doubtfire and everything that Robin Williams did was unbelievable. But I think I got more of a sample size with Jim Carrey than anything else.
Just because you were younger.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
much. And for our last one, we call this the ChatGPT question of the day. And Joe, we're going to throw it at you. Would you rather do improv with a judge or have a heckler act as your co-counsel in a court?
Oh, give me the heckler all day.
Why?
I just love when people blurt stuff out in the crowd. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You're at a show, you pay for a ticket, you got to be quiet. So when someone yells something out, it's usually easy pickings. And the rest of the crowd kind of rallies around the comic and supports him going after the guy. But yeah, hecklers are the best. I mean,
but if he's your co-counselor in a courtroom and he's just sitting there, if he's just sitting there talking trash to you, would you rather have the heckler as your co-counsel, or would you rather go in and do a comedy act or an improv act with a judge?
I'm sorry, I misheard. So a heckler as a co-counsel,
you'd either go on and do improv with a fellow judge or someone that you know,
okay.
Or would you rather be in a court case and your co-counselor in court is a heckler?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you. No, yeah, it'd probably be the judge with the improv. There's actually a couple of retired judges who are starting to do stand up now. You can see them online. Yeah, so that's a no-brainer. I mean, you don't want someone heckling you where you're sitting there at the courthouse.
Yeah, especially your co-counselor, talking trash to you during the whole time you're trying to do it.
Yeah, it's enough problems at that point. So, easy one. Give me the judge as the improv.
What is the wildest thing that someone has yelled out in court? There's got to be something.
You know what? Nothing really. I mean, everybody's pretty well behaved. There's a bailiff there. I mean, I think you guys watch TV and maybe you think it's like the Wild West. But
we're hoping so.
Yeah, no, it's just business as usual. You go in, people get work done, and they leave. Now, I don't do criminal defense, so maybe those court, they got the defendants in the courtroom, and that's probably the videos you see online, like criminal courts gone wild or whatever. But doing personal injury, it's usually it's just the lawyers. The clients are at home; they rarely come to court. Unless there's a trial, they'll have to come in and testify. But ours is pretty laid back.
No.
What is your, can you give us a good story about a heckle that somebody tried to go at you and you just totally dominated them? Or her?
Yeah, there's so many of them. The last heckle I got was a buddy of mine. He had a bunch of drinks in the back.
Oh, jeez.
Yelling how he struck me out in Little League in like 1986. And I mean, he was probably one of the worst players in the league for years. We thought he was lefty, but he ended up being a righty, and we could tell he didn't know how to throw a baseball. So I laid into this guy for 30 minutes. I had stats. We were talking about plays he had made, how he never got cut from every team. And he came up to me, he was like, "Oh, sorry, man. I just wanted to yell that out. I had a couple of drinks." He's like, "But now everybody in the crowd knows, I batted ninth and played right field." I said, "Well, next time you just got to be quiet.
Next time, shut the hell up."
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's funny, usually it's your buddies. They're just kind of riding you a little bit, but whatever. It's part of the job. Like you guys do this. Sometimes you'll have like a, microphone that won't work or a link that ain't going to be in a comic. Hecklers, man, it's just part of going into work every day.
Do you have a set thing that you would say to somebody, or does each heckler come with their own different set of circumstances?
Yeah. You got to be quick on your feet. And, you don't want to start an argument where they're going to come up on stage and body slam you. So
that would be bad.
You got to call them out, but you got to be respectful because you don't want to lose the crowd where you say something like, "Oh man, that was mean." Can't poke fun at the guy for that. But
he's in a wheelchair. What the hell?
Right. So I think there's a Key and Peele skit about that.
Is there?
But you walk this fine line where you make fun of them, but you don't offend them or the crowd.
Gotcha.
And it's always not easy to do because, I got a set list in my head. I got 20 minutes of jokes I want to tell. And now this guy throws me off. And I got to go address this and then come back to my set list. So your mind is spinning because you don't want to forget a joke or a punchline, but then you get distracted and you got to address it. And while you're addressing it, you still have to be professional so that you don't come off as a jerk. And, everybody on Instagram, "Oh, don't go see his show. He made fun of this guy for this or that." So, I mean, it's a lot, but
I think you might actually get more people coming up and watching it if you shut it down. That hard. I'm going.
Yeah,
just shred them.
It's part of the gig. And, some of these professionals like a Bill Burr or some of these guys, Patrice O'Neill, they were so good at just calling out these hecklers. And you can watch them. It's an art form, man, when these guys do it. And, hopefully one day I'll be at that level. But for now, it's usually just my buddies in the crowd talking about stuff we did in the late 90s, which has no relevance to anything. I think they just want to, "Hey, look at me. But whatever, part of the job."
I love it. Joe Lauer, comedian, lawyer, all things extraordinary. You can also follow him on Instagram at JWL Comedy. And his next show is going to be May 25th at Riddle's Comedy Club. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're way past that, check out his Instagram. His website is on there as well. And you'll get all of his future dates and all the fun stuff up there as well. Joe, thanks for coming on with us.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Have a good weekend, all right?
All right, you've been listening to Barguments. Don't forget, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends. We even have a Facebook group where you can be very active in Barguments. There's all kinds of fun topics and memes that we all kind of start arguing about. So please head on over to the Barguments podcast. And if you want to get more of me, I'm on WGN Monday nights with John Records Landegger. 8 o'clock, we do what's called a food fight. And then also I go on every Friday afternoon on the Hammer and Nigel show in Indianapolis for WIBC Radio, and we do a Bargument there as well. And any other info you need, head over towards the description of the podcast. I'll leave all the links right there below. Once again, for Joe Filippo, my name is Dan Levy. You've been listening to Barguments. Talk to you again next time. See ya. Joe, thanks a lot, man. That was fun.
Yeah, no